think is easy to get. It's you're either fat or skinny, right? Or myelinated or not. Right? You're either gray matter or white matter. White matter is myelinated, gray matter is not. Or you're fat or skinny. That's it. We can't change the length, right? If I need to get a signal to my big toe, I can't just stick my foot up my butt and get it closer to my spinal cord, right? It's still got to go the same distance. I couldn't even get it close anyhow. So let's focus on this driving force. The driving force in neurons is an electrochemical gradient. Electrochemical just simply means that the electrical potential is generated by the distribution of chemical ions. So electrochemical gradients are produced by ions. And by having an ion imbalance across a membrane, right? If you were in equilibrium with regard to this electrochemical gradient, guess what the potential is? 0. Right? So we create a disequilibrium by pumping ions of opposite charge into the cell or out of the cell. And we create, across the cell membrane, the barrier, right? Can ions move through a phospholipid bilayer? Only if I let them, right? So if I put some out here and put some in here, they'll stay there. And if they're of opposite charge, guess what I just made? Potential. So how can we see if this is true? Actually, let me do this. I'll keep my cell membrane there for that. I'll put this on here and then we'll tell why. Here's my cell. We spent some time the other day talking about being in chemical disequilibrium, right? And there was a chart we put on the board, I can't remember, chapter 5 or something like that. We put a chart on the board that said, okay, if you look in extracellular fluid and intracellular fluid, these are the most abundant ions, okay? And we said that, let's make this ICF, right? You okay with these terminology? ECF, intracellular fluid, extracellular fluid. This is most likely, if this is a neuron we're talking about, this is interstitial fluid, not blood plasma, right? Okay. But there are, actually, I'm trying to think if any, I don't think any of the cells in blood actually have an electrochemical gradient, so this would almost always be interstitial fluid. I don't think there's any cells, I could be wrong about that, but I don't think so. But anyhow, ICF and ECF. We said that, let's just put some distribution of ions up here. In the ECF, we said this is where you have more sodium. Now, does this mean that there's 0 sodium in the cell? No, there's a little bit, right? But we don't like it in here. So what I want to do, as soon as some comes in, what do I want to do? Push it back out. And will it stay out here? Yeah. But there are sodium channels in here, right? And every channel in the body, even if the door is closed, they're leaky, right? I mean, even if this door is closed and the wind's blowing, you're going to have some wind come in, right? So even though we say a channel is closed, every channel leaks a little bit. Some more than others, it depends. Right? So even though I'm putting it all out there, some of it's slowly leaking back in. So I want my sodium out there. Where do I want my potassium? I want my potassium inside. Right? So even though I've got a bunch of potassium inside, some leaks out. It just does, inevitably. Calcium. Anybody remember where we wanted calcium?
Outside.
Outside. Chloride ions? Outside. Those are the biggies there. The other thing that we have inside of the cell, well, I'm going to ask you this. Where do you think there would be more proteins? In extracellular fluid or intracellular fluid? Inside, right? They're being made in here. We're using them in here. The protein should be inside. Proteins, are they mostly negative, positive, or neutral? The other way to ask this is, are they hydrophilic or hydrophobic? Hydrophilic. They're soluble, so they're going to have a charge. And most often than not, their charge is negative. So all of these dissolve because they have acid. Anything that's acidic is going to donate a positive charge, and that compound itself is going to be the conjugate base is going to be negative, right? All of these organic acids. What are organic acids? Carbohydrates, proteins, and nucleic acids are all organic acids. All of these organic acids, well, not all of them, but collectively, they have quite a negative charge. So now, because we have the, and they'll stay here, right, relatively. Now we've got a situation where we have a membrane, it's a barrier, and we have different kind of charges on the outside. Now if we were to resolve all of this, okay, here, this makes the inside incredibly negative, all of these dissolved organics. This right here, well, and that, but this especially, makes this outside incredibly positive. And in fact, even though we could only talk about sodium and potassium, really, remember the sodium and potassium pump? Yeah? It's going to pump these two, and when it pumps, we said it pushes 3 sodiums out, and how many potassiums in? 2. So even this is an imbalance with the outside being more positive than the inside, right? So even though they're both positive, this is more positive. The other way you can say it, and this is important to understand that these are kind of saying the same thing, because I'll say it the same way. I use it interchangeably. I can say the outside is more positive, but I could have easily said the inside is more negative. I could say that the inside is less positive, right? I could say the outside is less negative. So those are all saying the same thing. More positive, less positive, more negative on the inside. Saying the same thing.